The reason most people never rise beyond mediocrity is simple: they feel too much. They mistake compassion for virtue and hesitation for morality. But in the real game, the one played in boardrooms, kingdoms, and quiet manipulations, wealth does not flow to the kind. It flows to the calculating, the disciplined, and the emotionally detached. In this video, I will show you why only the cold ascend and how those who master emotion rule those enslaved by it. Imagine wealth not as numbers in a vault, but as a weapon, forged in silence, sharpened by control, and wielded by those unshaken by sentiment. History's richest and most powerful minds did not conquer through kindness. They conquered through clarity. The ability to think without the fog of emotion, to act when others trembled, and to cut ties when loyalty became a liability. This is not a sermon for the meek. It is a reflection for those who understand that morality bends beneath results, that petty is often the luxury of the powerless, and that to rise, one must learn to feel less and see more. So listen closely, for in the shadows of greed and restraint lies the true psychology of wealth, and the cold hand that grips it. You believe emotion makes you human, but in truth it makes you predictable. The powerful have always known this. They do not extinguish their feelings. They master them, turning passion into instrument, empathy into leverage, and silence into control. Emotion is not weakness in itself, undisciplined emotion is. The man who cannot command his own impulses will serve the one who can. Think of Caesar, betrayed not by enemies, but by those he trusted. He understood their hearts before they understood their own. His calm in the Senate, even when blades turned against him, revealed what few grasped: the ability to control emotion is the last advantage before death. You see, emotion makes you transparent. It paints your desires across your face and broadcasts your fears through your voice. To the calculating observer, this is gold. When a rival grows angry, they show you where they're weak. When they grow sentimental, they reveal what they'll never sacrifice. When they fall in love, with people, with ideas, with appearances, they become manipulable. Ask yourself, how easily could someone control you if they understood what provokes you? If they knew what words ignite your rage, what flattery melts your resolve, or what memory you'd do anything to protect? That is why detachment is not cruelty, it is armor. Those who rise above the crowd do not abandon feeling, they refine it into strategy. They appear warm when warmth opens doors. They show empathy when empathy wins trust. But inside, they remain untouched. The illusion of emotion is often more powerful than its reality. Consider the merchant who feigns concern for his client's well-being. His tone is sincere, his smile measured, yet every word is calculated to keep the client dependent. Or the ruler who cries at funerals and laughs at festivals, not because he feels what others feel, but because he knows emotion unites the herd. And the herd must be managed. History favors not the kind, the composed. Alexander wept, yes, but only after victory. Napoleon spoke of honor, but only to cloak ambition. And the great strategist moves people not by passion, but by precision. To detach emotionally is to see reality as it is, stripped of illusion, sentiment, and wishful thinking. It is to recognize that most of what people call morality is emotional self-deception, a disguise for fear, guilt, or the desperate need to appear good. Have you noticed how the masses react when challenged? They argue from feeling, not reason. They defend their beliefs as if defending their own flesh. But once emotion rules a mind, logic retreats, and power slips quietly to the observer who remains calm. In negotiation, in politics, in love, the colder mind wins, not because it lacks heart, but because it does not allow heart to interfere. The truth is, uncomfortable emotion is currency for those who cannot hold power by any other means. People cry, beg, flatter, or rage because they have no better weapon. But the one who remains unmoved can dictate every exchange. This is why the powerful study psychology, not poetry. They learn patterns, not passions. They observe, record, predict. They know that people are machines of stimulus and response. Push pride, you provoke resistance. Touch fear, you gain obedience. Appeal to vanity, and you own them. The emotionally detached manipulate not through cruelty, but through clarity. They see beyond the theater of feeling. They understand that emotions are not truths, they are tools. In moments of crisis, this distinction separates rulers from victims. When chaos strikes, they panic, blame, freeze. But the detached, they calculate. They measure losses, reassign roles, and adapt before others can even speak. Psychologists call it emotional regulation. Philosophers call it stoicism. But the strategist calls it survival. And make no mistake, survival in the world of power is not given to the loudest, but to the least reactive. You may think detachment makes you heartless. No, it makes you effective. It allows you to move through betrayal, through loss, through deceit, without drowning in it. It gives you the stillness to strike at the perfect moment, when others are blinded by rage or guilt. To feel is human. To master feeling is divine, but to use feeling while remaining untouched by it, that is power. The weak will call it manipulation. The wise will call it discipline. And the ruthless, they will simply call it necessary. So ask yourself, as you look at the world and its endless dramas, are you the one feeling the storm, or the one directing it? Because only one of them leaves the battlefield standing. Power rarely requires violence. It requires belief. Those who understand perception rule those who cling to truth. For truth can be questioned. But perception, once shaped, becomes reality. Think of every leader who never lifted a sword yet commanded armies. Every merchant who sold dreams instead of goods. Every lover who made another surrender, not through demand, but through illusion. The world bends not to strength, but to appearance. Force is crude. It breaks bodies, but not minds. Perception, however, enslaves willingly. You've seen it. The silent man in the meeting who speaks last, yet everyone listens. Why? Because silence creates mystery, and mystery breeds importance. He may know nothing more than the others, but by controlling how he is seen, he commands the room. Power, then, is not what you hold, but what others believe you hold. History's masters of perception understood this law. Caesar appeared merciful, so the people forgave his ambition. The church appeared divine, so kings bowed before it. Modern empires wrap greed in philanthropy, control in kindness, and ambition in vision. And the masses applaud their own enslavement, believing they chose it. You see, humans crave certainty more than truth. They would rather follow a confident lie than a hesitant truth teller. Appear certain, and the crowd will fill in your wisdom for you. Appear uncertain, and even your truth will sound like deceit. Ask yourself, how often do you perform confidence to be respected? How often do you hide fear to appear strong? That is perception control. You already practice it. The powerful simply master it consciously. They know that belief is stronger than evidence. Once you make someone believe in your image, your intellect, your generosity, your strength, they will defend it for you. They will rationalize your flaws, justify your cruelty, and explain your failures. They will protect the illusion that comforts them. That is the essence of rule, to make others police their own perception of you. Consider the strategist who never argues. He lets others speak first, watches their reactions, then mirrors what they most want to hear. Soon they call him wise, because he reflects their desires back at them. It's not truth they worship, it's recognition. Perception is power because it controls attention, and attention is the modern throne. He who directs it, directs reality. When you control how others see, you no longer need to force their obedience. They give it freely. You can silence enemies without raising a hand, simply by shaping how others interpret them. Reputation becomes your sword. Image becomes your armor. Understand this: people judge not by facts, but by symbols. A tailored suit commands respect more than honest words. A calm tone disarms suspicion faster than any oath. Even silence, when used with precision, can scream authority. The wise manipulate these symbols deliberately. They appear humble when they must approach power. They appear righteous when their hands are dirty. They appear in control, even when everything burns behind the curtain. Because perception is not about deception, it is about framing. You do not lie. You decide what truth looks like. Even in psychology, the strongest bias in human nature is confirmation. People see only what reinforces their prior belief, so give them one, and they will blind themselves to the rest. In politics, the leader who appears moral may commit sins unseen. In business, the CEO who appears visionary can cloak greed beneath charisma. In relationships, the one who appears calm always holds the upper hand. Perception, not power, governs the heart. And through the heart, everything else. The tragedy of most people is that they seek to be rather than to appear. They work to become intelligent, good, or powerful, and neglect how others perceive those qualities. They forget that the world rewards presentation over essence. Ask yourself, what matters more in a court of law, innocence or the appearance of innocence? What matters more in leadership competence or the appearance of confidence? In truth, perception is the bridge between reality and influence, and the great players know how to walk it without ever being seen. That is why you must learn to sculpt your image like marble. Deliberate, emotionless, and precise. Let others show their thoughts. You show only what serves your aim. Reveal nothing you cannot control. Display everything that multiplies your authority. For once perception solidifies, it becomes your invisible empire. Your enemies will whisper, your rivals will doubt, but the world will believe you, and belief is the most loyal servant of all. So tell me, would you rather fight to convince the world of your truth, or make the world believe your illusion is the truth? Because in the end, the ruler is not the one with power, it is the one everyone thinks has it. Most people give to feel good, the powerful give to own. Every coin they offer, every favor they grant, every smile they extend, it's a purchase, not of gratitude but of control. Generosity, in the hands of the wise, is not kindness, it is strategy. Think of it when you receive a gift. What do you feel? Gratitude? Obligation? Perhaps a quiet urge to return the favor someday. That feeling, that invisible weight, is the leash of power. A well-placed gift binds tighter than a chain. You don't resist it because it feels noble to submit. This is how rulers built loyalty without ever drawing blood. They fed their allies not with love, but with calculated benevolence. Just enough to inspire dependence, never enough to create equality. It is a mistake to give too freely. The powerful give precisely. They measure what each person values, then provide it at a cost unseen. Julius Caesar understood this art better than any general. He spent fortunes on public feasts, gladiator games, and debt forgiveness. Not out of charity, but design, the people saw generosity. Caesar saw investment. Every cheer in the streets was interest returned on his calculated spending. He knew that when you make people love your hand, they will never bite it. Ask yourself, do you give to be admired or to be owed? Do your favors strengthen others or make them quietly dependent on your approval? To give strategically, you must study psychology, not pity. Generosity must mirror the receiver's hunger. For some, it's money. For others, it's validation, opportunity, or attention. Find what they crave most, and give just enough to make them need you again. That is the true economy of power, not wealth, but dependency. Look at modern politics. A campaign donation is never a gift. It is a prepayment for influence. A handshake is a transaction disguised as camaraderie, and behind every supporter stands a benefactor pulling invisible strings. The powerful do not chase affection, they construct it through obligation. Even in personal relationships, this law remains. The one who gives more, emotionally, financially, or socially, gains leverage, whether they realize it or not. When you teach someone to rely on your approval, your advice, your presence, you build a quiet throne inside their mind. They begin to measure their worth through your response. And that, my friend, is the purest form of control. Generosity, to the powerful, is an investment in human nature itself. Because human nature hates to feel indebted. We seek balance. We want to repay what we owe. But when repayment is impossible, the debt transforms into loyalty or guilt. Both serve power. Consider the corporate magnate who donates to charity. He buys moral immunity. The world calls him good, and thus his sins are discounted. His generosity is not selfless, it is insurance for reputation. Even saints understand this law, though they pretend not to. A single act of mercy can make a sinner worship his savior for life. The clever ruler uses this instinct to bind both friend and foe. Reward an enemy too soon, and he grows arrogant. Reward him after humiliation, and he becomes your most loyal servant. Because gratitude born from relief is the deepest kind. Do not mistake this for cruelty. It is control through emotion rather than violence. To make a man feel indebted is to own the key to his conscience. There is an ancient story of a nobleman who saved a peasant's life from drowning. The peasant, overwhelmed with gratitude, served him loyally for years. But when another nobleman offered the peasant gold, he betrayed his master instantly. Why? Because gratitude fades when the debt feels repaid. That is why true generosity must never be complete. Leave every favor unfinished, every debt slightly unpaid, so that loyalty remains alive. A wise benefactor gives in fragments, never all at once. He feeds dependency like a slow poison, invisible, but binding. The fool gives everything. The ruler gives little, knowing it will multiply into devotion. So when you give, measure your intent. Do not ask, will this make them happy? Ask, will this make them mine? In power, there is no free kindness. Only transactions dressed as compassion. The world will call you cold, but it will also call you indispensable. Remember, those who control generosity control the rhythm of gratitude. And gratitude, once mastered, becomes obedience in disguise. So, the next time you give, pause and calculate, not from cruelty, but from clarity. Because the greatest gift is not what you offer to others. It's the invisible chain you leave wrapped around their loyalty. Guilt is a luxury only the powerless can afford. The powerful do not waste time mourning their decisions. They calculate them, execute them, and move on. You were taught that guilt is the voice of conscience, that it proves goodness. But in truth, guilt is the leash that keeps strong minds obedient to weak ideals. History's masters knew this. They learned early that hesitation breeds vulnerability and that every great act, whether of conquest, creation, or betrayal, requires a cold heart. Alexander burned cities. Caesar crossed the Rubicon. The church silenced thinkers to preserve authority. They did what was necessary, not what was moral. And yet, the world remembers them as giants. The crowd condemns ruthlessness because it fears the mirror it holds. People prefer the comfort of hesitation. They want to believe that feeling bad makes them good. But in the chessboard of power, morality is a story, guilt its most effective trap. Ask yourself, how many times have you known what needed to be done, but stopped because of guilt? How many opportunities slipped through your hands because you feared appearing cruel? The weak measure decisions by emotion. The strong measure them by consequence. To rule your life, or anything greater, you must learn to think beyond guilt. This does not mean embracing evil. It means removing noise from judgment. Because guilt clouds clarity. It makes you hesitate when precision is required. Consider the surgeon. He must cut living flesh to save a life. Does he feel guilt? No. He feels focus. His detachment is not cruelty, it is mastery. The same applies to strategy, politics, relationships. Sometimes you must wound to heal, end alliances, fire loyal friends, expose illusions. If you do it with purpose, you do it cleanly. But guilt makes people dirty in their morality, acting half-heartedly, apologizing for survival, and hiding their true motives behind false kindness. The powerful move differently. They understand that intentional harm can serve a higher order than emotional comfort. In their world, hesitation kills faster than the dagger. History has no shortage of leaders who fell because guilt whispered too loudly. Marcus Aurelius, noble, philosophical, merciful, spent years negotiating with chaos he should have crushed. His compassion drained his empire's strength. While his enemies slept soundly, he wrestled with morality. He died respected, but his Rome weakened. And yet, the cold strategist outlasts the moral one, because the world rewards results, not remorse. Psychology supports this truth. Guilt serves to maintain group cohesion. It keeps the herd together, obedient, but the alpha, the ruler, the visionary, cannot always serve the herd's comfort. He must sometimes act against it. And for that, guilt must be silenced. The key is not to lose your humanity. The key is to govern it. To feel guilt, recognize it, and still act when it stands in the way of necessity. That is discipline, not heartlessness. You see, guilt tricks you into believing you can please everyone. But every choice creates an enemy. To avoid guilt is to accept that conflict is the price of clarity. Those who fear guilt hide behind excuses. It wasn't my choice. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. But every apology made for strength reduces your command over yourself. You must learn to act without explanation, to do what others won't, to endure being misunderstood, and remain unmoved. Even Machiavelli once wrote that a ruler must learn not to be good when goodness becomes self-destruction, not because cruelty is noble, but because guilt destroys resolve faster than any external enemy. Think of the general who sacrifices a few to save the many, the executive who fires hundreds to keep thousands employed, the partner who ends a relationship when truth demands it. They act with coldness not from lack of feeling, but from mastery of it. And afterward, they sleep, because they have accepted necessity as nature. Those who drown in guilt, however, live in perpetual self-punishment. They replay decisions endlessly, rewriting outcomes that never existed. Guilt paralyzes their will, and power dies in paralysis. Understand this: the world is not divided between good and evil. It is divided between those who decide and those who hesitate. When you free yourself from guilt, you reclaim the full force of your will. You begin to act with precision, unclouded by moral noise, untouched by emotional blackmail. The cold advantage is not cruelty, it is clarity. The ability to act as though no one is watching, to do what reason commands even when the world screams. Heartless. And once you experience that stillness, that calm after a hard decision, you will never again envy the sentimental. Because guilt, like fear, belongs to those who serve. Freedom belongs to those who act. So, ask yourself, when the next choice demands sacrifice, will you hesitate to preserve your image, or strike cleanly to preserve your future? Power does not move through money alone. It moves through emotion, the invisible currency that drives every choice, every alliance, every downfall. The powerful know this. They do not simply command people's actions. They command what they feel. The common man believes emotion to be private, but emotion, in truth, is public property. It is a market, open to manipulation, traded daily by those who understand its value. If money buys survival, emotion buys obedience. Every empire, every corporation, every religion has run not on gold, but on fear, pride, guilt, and hope. Fear builds armies. Pride builds loyalty. Guilt builds submission, and hope builds endurance, even in suffering. So tell me, which emotion controls you the most? Because that is the one someone, somewhere, is already using against you. The skilled manipulator does not need violence or wealth. He only needs to discover which emotion drives his subject, and he owns their decisions without lifting a finger. History's most cunning leaders mastered this trade. They understood that people are not rational creatures. They are emotional instruments waiting to be played. Consider the church during the Middle Ages. It did not need to wield swords, it wielded fear of damnation. By controlling the emotional imagination of its followers, it shaped behavior, obedience, and loyalty across centuries. Or take Napoleon, who wrapped ambition in glory. He made soldiers die willingly by convincing them their sacrifice was noble. He did not pay them in gold. He paid them in meaning. You see, emotion is the cheapest form of power, because you can create it from nothing. The illusion of control begins with understanding which emotions dominate the crowd. In chaos, they crave safety. In boredom, they crave purpose. In failure, they crave redemption. And whoever satisfies these cravings gains followers, customers, believers, even worshippers. Psychology calls it emotional conditioning. You give people a feeling they desire, relief, excitement, belonging, and then tie it to your presence. Soon, they no longer want the emotion, they want you. That is how influence becomes addiction. Even in modern society, the same patterns remain. Politicians ignite fear to secure votes. Influencers sell self-worth to the insecure. Corporations manufacture identity, convincing you that what you buy defines who you are. You are not purchasing products, you are purchasing emotions, confidence, status, control, beauty. And every purchase reinforces the seller's power. Now ask yourself, how many of your choices are truly rational? How many are simply emotional reactions disguised as logic? The wise learn to rise above this economy, or better yet, to exploit it. If you wish to influence others, do not argue facts. Facts bore the heart. Instead, trigger emotion, for once emotion moves, reason follows. When you want loyalty, use pride. Make others feel chosen, special, indispensable. They will defend you as they defend their own identity. When you want obedience, use fear. Create uncertainty. Then present yourself as the stable force within it. When you want control, use guilt. Make them believe they owe you, and they will serve without being asked. When you want adoration, use hope. Offer a vision of what could be, even if you never intend to deliver it fully. These emotions form the true currencies of power. The world runs on them, silently, efficiently, endlessly. But remember, to exploit emotion, you must not feel it too deeply yourself. The manipulator must remain detached, studying reactions as a scientist studies fire, knowing that the same heat that warms the room can burn his hand. Once you begin to believe your own illusion, you lose control of it. Even the greatest rulers fall when they start reacting emotionally to their own creations. They become prisoners of their own propaganda, worshipping the mask they built. That is why the cold mind always prevails. It can ignite emotion in others, yet remain untouched by it. True control is not about suppressing emotion. It's about orchestrating it. You conduct the music while others dance, and the more chaotic the world becomes, the easier this game gets. Because people crave emotional anchors more than truth. Offer them stability in their storm, and they will trade their independence for your calm hand. The crowd does not seek freedom. It seeks comfort, and comfort is the most profitable emotion of all. So study the market. Observe what people fear, what they envy, what they crave. Then decide what emotion you will sell, and at what cost. Because in this economy, the richest are not those who own wealth, but those who own hearts. In a world ruled by noise, silence is power. Most people react. They react to insults, to praise, to rumors, to fear. Their emotions dictate their actions, and so they are led by anyone who can provoke them. The few who rise above the crowd do not react. They observe. They stand motionless while others flail in chaos, watching, calculating, waiting for the perfect strike. This is the discipline of the unmoved mind, the final and highest weapon of control. Because while strength conquers battles and cunning wins alliances, only composure sustains power. History is written by those who kept their pulse steady while others lost theirs. Consider Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, surrounded by war, betrayal, and plague. He ruled not through rage or impulse, but through stillness. His restraint made him feared by enemies and trusted by soldiers. For when a leader does not panic, neither does his army. Compare him to Nero, impulsive, emotional, desperate for approval. His empire burned as quickly as his temper. That is the difference between reaction and rule. Now ask yourself, how easily can others make you move? A single insult can ruin your mood. A rejection can fracture your confidence. A moment of fear can shatter your strategy. You cannot command others until you command your own mind. And control begins with stillness. Stillness is not the absence of thought. It is the mastery of it. It means you no longer respond to every external trigger, but decide which ones deserve energy. To the unmoved mind, emotion is not a command, it is a signal to be analyzed. When anger rises, you dissect it. When fear whispers, you listen, but you do not obey. When pride tempts you, you measure the cost. This calm detachment confuses manipulators, infuriates enemies, and earns respect from observers. The manipulator's greatest weapon is reaction. He feeds on it, but when you give him nothing, no anger, no apology, no defense, he starves, silence becomes your sword. The greatest kings, generals, and negotiators all shared one trait: an unnatural calm. They knew that time bends to those who wait. When chaos erupts, the emotional man seeks escape. The strategist looks for advantage. There is power in the pause, that moment between stimulus and response where all outcomes hang in the balance. That pause is where reason triumphs over instinct. In modern life, this same law applies. The algorithm thrives on reaction. Anger clicks, outrage spreads, emotion sells. Every platform is designed to keep you impulsive. The calmer you become, the more invisible you are to their control. Even in relationships, those who stay composed hold the upper hand. The one who speaks last often decides how the story ends. When you master stillness, people begin to project strength onto you. Even when you've said nothing, they confuse your silence with wisdom, your patience with authority. And soon, they follow your rhythm, because humans crave certainty, and nothing feels more certain than a mind that cannot be shaken. But make no mistake, stillness is not passivity. It is strategy disguised as calm. You are not ignoring the storm, you are studying its direction. You are letting others exhaust themselves while you conserve your energy. When the time comes to act, you strike once, and with precision. It is the same principle the samurai lived by: one breath, one motion. Their stillness before battle was not peace. It was control. Control of self, control of timing, control of outcome. Psychologists call it emotional regulation. Philosophers call it mastery of the self. But to the strategist, it is simply survival. The more chaos you can stand without trembling, the more power you command. Even Machiavelli wrote that a ruler must appear impassive. For fear spreads faster in a trembling hand. The people look to their leader not for passion, but for proof that someone is still thinking. So, train your mind to remain unmoved. Let others flinch. Let them react. Let them reveal their hands first. Every outburst exposes weakness. Every silence conceals strength. When you stop reacting, you stop being predictable. And when you stop being predictable, you become untouchable. Learn to breathe slowly when others shout. Learn to smile when others panic. Learn to delay your reaction until it becomes irrelevant, because the man who cannot be moved cannot be manipulated, and the one who cannot be manipulated rules. So ask yourself now, are you mastering your emotions, or are your emotions mastering you? Because the next evolution of power belongs not to the loud or the strong, but to the still. Power does not require permission. It requires understanding of others and of yourself. Those who control people without them knowing do not shout commands. They whisper reality. They shape perception not through force, but through subtlety. Control begins in silence. It grows through observation, and it thrives when emotion is your servant, not your master. You do not win by dominating others. You win by guiding their choices while they believe they are free. That is the highest form of manipulation. That is true sovereignty of the mind. So ask yourself, do you wish to be understood or obeyed? Do you wish to appear kind, or to command quietly through precision and restraint? Because in the end, the world bows not to the loud, but to the calculated. If this spoke to your inner strategist, leave your thoughts below. Subscribe for more Machiavellian psychology, and share this video so others may awaken to the art of unseen power.